Look at that.
Perfect. I am calling to order the Douglas Library Board of Trustees meeting, regular meeting for Monday, July 8, 2024. It is now 7:04 p.m. Let's see, and I believe we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could start. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
God, indivisible,
with
for liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. The next item is public comments. Does anyone wish to make a public comment at this point in time? Oh, hearing none, we'll move on to the next. I don't think we have to do a consent agenda tonight. I don't believe we're making any changes or shortening the agenda. Okay. The first would be, did I miss something? Where's the approval of the old minutes?
That's under your next thing. Report secretary.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
All right. There I go. Okay. Reports secretary approval of old minutes from the 6/10/2024 meeting.
So moved.
Whoa, wait, I'm not done. I'm gonna introduce trouble. I was going through the minutes and there was some confusion regarding the discussion of the guidelines from the state. And I don't think the secretary understood exactly what was going on or what she was writing about. So I rewrote that section, which I cannot now find. Did you send that out, Priscilla, by the way?
I did not, but hang on and I will do that.
You could, please.
Only
So I took the liberty of going through, listening to the tapes, reviewing the transcript, and tried, with the help of Drusilla, to make it consistent with what really happened and what Andy had gotten from the state. Did you find it?
I did. I just forwarded it.
Oh,
hang on and I will
post it, please.
That's what I'm working on. Hang on.
Okay.
Let me get that far. Which screen am I on? I'm on that screen. There we go.
Okay. Oops, that's not it. Okay. All right. What I had done, oopsie. If you can go to the minutes, the section under old business, the item is the Friends of the Library. And I had added to bullet number 2 that Andy has stated that Andy had received information from the state library regarding best practices. So I stuck in there that what he received was the state issued best practices in the Connecticut State Library, which contains benchmarks. Each section is divided into benchmarks, I think are essential. I'm sorry, what are they? Essential. I can't even see that part.
Essential, enhanced, and exemplary. Hang on, I'll move. There we go. Try that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And so wait a minute, hang on. Let me move something on my screen, and I think I will
say
be
to move the
okay.
attendees.
Okay. And which is divided into essential, enhanced, and exemplary benchmarks, which I believe everyone got a copy of. The third bullet point I added that Drusilla reported that the library is doing well with the benchmarks, which is not exactly what was said. I don't think that the secretary understood what we were talking about. The next thing was, except the library does not meet the essential benchmarks for FOL groups, except for having a liaison with the Friends of the Douglas Library. So moving on to the next page, the fourth bullet mark, it is an essential benchmark for the library in the state best practices that the library have a memorandum of understanding with photo. And so she just said it was essential, but she didn't understand it was an essential benchmark. Then on the fifth bullet point, I corrected that to say, eventually state aid may have requirements based on the best practices. Grants may be made contingent based on the best practices, because that also wasn't clear. The fifth bullet, eventually state aid may have requirements based on best practices. Grants may be made contingent based on best practices. Again, she didn't quite understand what the standards were and what was essential and what was not. The sixth bullet, I put the library may have to describe where it is in the best practices and reports to the state and how it's making progress. I'm sorry, Drusilla, you do reports to the state, don't you?
Oh, yes.
And what
I'm starting to work on this year's now. Yeah.
oh, so you put, should we put in there that the annual reports to the state?
Yeah, but they also ask for other reports periodically randomly, so I think just reports is fine.
Okay. And then the seventh bullet, I asked that the photo get a copy of the guidelines and to show the library must do to comply with the best practice, especially if important for future state aid and grants. And that was basically what I tried to do. Drusilla read it and she seemed to think I got it right. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
That is accurate?
Yeah, I think these clarify some of what were in the minutes, to make things a little clearer.
Did anyone have any comments or questions about this?
That's the way I remember it.
Yeah, I just couldn't even understand what she wrote, to be honest with you. I mean, it just seems so garbled to me that, you know, she didn't talk about the benchmarks or what was essential. And I think, so having gone again back through the tape and talking with Drusilla, this was the rewrite that I had for that section. So I would recommend that the minutes be amended to incorporate these changes, which Drusilla could then send over to Catherine. Did anyone else have any changes, corrections, or anything else they wanted to add? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as corrected?
I so move.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I
Those opposed? And any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, the next report is from the Friends of the Douglas Library. Is our liaison here tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
So, based upon the statements from the last trustee meeting, Tim reached out to the state librarian with 9 questions.
Mhm.
And he talked with her and then she responded in writing, of which I believe she sent you a copy, Pat.
Yes, she
and
did.
Andy a copy and Drusilla a copy of her answer to the 9 questions.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how many of the other trustees have seen the questions and the answers. I think the first 3 are the most compelling, and I would like to go over them as the liaison. So the first question Tim had, was the library director correct or incorrect when she reported that the goal of the best practice document was to withhold or restrict eligibility for grant funding? And the state librarian responded, this is an incorrect assertion. The Connecticut Best Practices for a Public Library is a recommendation the State Library Board. There are no punitive elements attached. So the whole discussion of grant funding is, it's not a part of it.
Mhm.
Number 2, are the best practice standards intended to be mandatory? The reply from her was the State Library Board endorsed the best practices as best practices for public libraries in Connecticut. In order for the best practices to be enforced or mandatory, they would have to be codified in state statutes. So, and they're not. So the best practices, it's like a self-study mostly. How you doing? I mean, I did those a lot when I was working in a school system. It's a self-reflection of how you can get better in many different areas. Number 3, were the best practice standards intended to be used to attempt to pressure or otherwise compel a friends group to sign any memorandum of agreement or memorandum of understanding? Her answer was absolutely not. While the MOU is a best practice, MOUs are mutually developed agreements between 2 entities. Both parties work together to come to a mutually agreed upon MOU. So I just felt that those 3 were the most important. There's others. I'm not sure if the other trustees have seen them. It was regarding other things that we had concerns about trying to get information about programming and just other practices. So I just felt like that needed to be clarified, because in the last meeting that the trustees had, it truly sounded like if the Friends did not sign an MOU, that we would be, jeopardizing the library for state funding. And that's incorrect. So
Okay.
that came through on Thursday, June 13th. Our next meeting was June 17th, where our members saw what, they saw the minutes from the last meeting of the trustees. I went over the minutes with them. They saw the state librarian's response to that. And at this meeting, there were 3 resolutions that were passed. One of them is, at this time, the Friends are unwilling to enter into an MOU. And we just feel our time is better spent with volunteering for the book sorting and all the work that goes into that, and the fundraising aspects. The second thing is, we had already funded all the materials that the library had requested for the following year. The thing we put on hold was programming. We did fund programming, but with some stipulations. The programming was funded subject to the following. The library must provide the Friends with a list of all programming expenses paid by the town for the last 4 fiscal years, broken down by children's, teens, and adults. This is something we had asked the town for months ago. The town must provide written proof that they have paid their budgeted $1,500 for the fiscal year 24-25 before the Friends funds will kick in. Any individual program of $500 or more must be requested and approved by Friends at a regularly scheduled meeting. All funds offered by the Friends expire on 5/17/1925 and are subject to cancellation by the Friends. The library must acknowledge the sponsorship of the Friends in any advertisement for programs paid for by the Friends. We had already asked for that in the past. And we had already asked about the $500 in the past. And the Friends will also require the town to equally match 50-50 program funds granted by the Friends in future years. So it's not going to affect the next fiscal budget. We granted them everything for this coming year, but in the future, we would like the town to match what the Friends give 50-50, because we are supposed to be a supplementary provider. So programming was funded, but with those contingencies. The next motion that was made was that motion was made to consult an attorney with the right to attain legal counsel if we deem it necessary and appropriate. And we did that just because we feel we needed to if something happens. And finally, it was basically the members there still feel really that there is hurt feelings which still have never been addressed. I mean, long ago and far away, the Friends were promised a letter, and the letter somehow morphed into a MOU or an MOA, whatever. And we just never feel like anything has been addressed with the problems with the Friends. So our minutes are available. If any of the trustees want to see it, this is verbatim from the minutes. And that's where we stand right now.
Okay, Pam. Drusilla, may I ask you a question? Weren't the minutes sent out to the board?
Yes,
Yes.
every
Members.
member of the board received those minutes.
Okay, that answers that question. And the rest of it, I think I'm going to be addressing in my chairperson's report regarding the emails that came from the state and also interactions with Andy Tierney, and also my response to the allegations of what happened at the meeting. But the one thing I do want to emphasize, which I will go into my report, is that the Friends are a voluntary organization, and we have no control over what the Friends decide to do. We can't force them to give us money. We can't force them to sign a memorandum of understanding. They are completely independent from the library and the library system. We cannot force them to sign an MOU. I like that acronym because it's MOU rather than MOA, memo of understanding. So if the Friends decide to give us money, we thank them for their hard work, but we can't force them to do anything because they are not part of the town, and they are certainly not part of the library. So I will address all the other emails and stuff, Pam, in my chairperson's report.
Okay.
And I believe that there was a packet of things that I had put together that Drusilla sent out to board members regarding my report.
Yes, went this
Okay.
evening.
So it's not on the agenda. It is just things that I included in my report.
Okay.
And then my thought was that the board needs a chance to read these and absorb them, and then we can address our response in the next meeting. So given that, I'm going to move on to the town manager representative.
And Donna is on vacation this week, so we do not have a report from her.
Okay. So the last thing we had have they put in the hybrid system yet for meeting?
They have not. All I know is sometime this summer.
Okay.
I am waiting to hear. I'm supposed to be alerted when that's actually going to happen.
Okay, so we don't have any, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we don't have a definite date yet, but we were told this summer.
Okay.
So
And so we don't have any information from Andy either.
no.
Okay, moving on to that. All right. My report involves some of the things that Pam mentioned. And in this, there was a packet of documents that was sent out. Unfortunately, I didn't get these together until today to give to Drusilla to put together, but she was kind enough to send them out. And you should have received them in your email. And in reverse order, you will find a email from Andy inviting the friends to a meeting to discuss getting things back on track again. And also he asks for information in case he has to contact the town attorney. The next thing is an email from Tim Howard. It's not dated, but I think it's after Mr. Tierney sent out his email that the minutes of the Friends were included with that. And it was basically a response about what was wrong with the model documents and why the Friends did not approve of them. And that they didn't feel that it was necessary for them to sign it, and that they had done a lot of hard work, which we appreciate, for the library. The next email, I believe, okay, now I'm out of order. There is an email from Tim to Dawn, is that correct, Priscilla?
Yep, a copy of Tim's email to Dawn with her responses.
Okay. And Tim's email basically is the questions that Pam was discussing, but it goes through all 9 of them. And then you have the response from Dawn. And then I believe you have a response from me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And my response basically was that personally, I did not agree about what was being said about what the minutes of what was said at the meeting, and that I was disappointed that emails were not being directed to the Board of Trustees, that we were sort of out of the loop of things. And based on what was said, I went back and reviewed the tape, actually twice, and I also read the transcript from the whole meeting, which you have to read and listen to in its entirety. You can't take pieces out of it because otherwise it doesn't make sense. So I also talked to Drusilla about what she recalls from the meeting and her reading, listening to her reading of the transcript and her listening to the tapes. And my recall is completely different about what the allegations of the Friends are. And I did not see any misrepresentations. I thought it was clear that these were recommendations, they were voluntary, that the state legislature had to act on it. As a matter of fact, I asked if I could monitor the state legislature to find out if anything came up about this. That Drusilla has stated that they were best practices, but they may at some point in time be used by some of the grant making authorities in determining whether we are eligible for grants, or that someday the state may adopt the practices, and that the Douglas Library should be in compliance as much as it could. And I also believe I stated that these recommendations were good ideas and we should comply with them anyway. And I am still puzzled why the Friends of the Douglas Library think that we can force them to sign a memorandum. The guidelines are only for the library and the board and the operations of the library, and are not in any way binding on the Friends. I mean, I think we should make the effort to enter into a memorandum, but if the Friends refuse to do it, we have no recourse. It's their choice. So that's basically what my response said. This email correspondence has not ended. It continues on to this very day, but I have not included the things that I have received or written to Dawn during today regarding to the response. So that is my report. I would like the board members to have a chance to read through these to listen to the transcripts or whatever they feel is listen to the recording or ask Drusilla for the transcripts to see what their feelings are. But I do not remember any of this happening. And I regret that there's any confusion about it. But this is not, I don't think was represented at the meeting. And as far as I was concerned, when we voted on whether we were going to follow the recommendations, that we understood it was voluntary and was not mandatory, but we decided that it was something good that we wanted to follow. Is there anyone who feels like they want to respond to this now, or do they want a chance to go through the materials, review what is there, review the tape, and see if they are in agreement? But it's my recommendation that there's nothing to even talk about. Drusilla did not make these statements, and I did not understand Drusilla to make these statements. And I actually asked several questions at the end of the meeting to clarify what I understood was happening. So is there anyone else who wants to make a comment now, or would you rather reserve comments for the next meeting and we'll take it up under old business?
I just feel that there's been so much that's been going on between the library and the Friends. And it started back when there was a issue with the what their stating was, and then all the materials from the Friends that were removed from the shelves because we were not supposed to be selling anything. That became a very big issue. There is right now very much hard feelings between the library and the Friends. The Friends put in so much work and they do so many programs. I do now see that in the River East, when there is any program being sponsored, it is said sponsored by the Friends of the Library. This had not been happening before. I think we need, the Friends need to be acknowledged for what they do. And they are a very important part of our library. We are very fortunate to have such a strong group of friends.
Okay, very good comments. I don't know if you're aware that the issue of why the books were removed was because the Department of Consumer Protection notified the Friends that they were not registered as required by state law.
But it was that someone notified the department that they did not have the certificate. It only took a phone call and the whole issue would have been resolved before this got out of hand.
Okay, so I am confused. Aren't the Friends glad that this was caught before it became a public embarrassment?
I think it could have been resolved a lot smoother and a lot nicer than it was. And I think that this is why there's a lot of bad feelings.
Okay, because I'm a lawyer, so when I see something that's in violation of the law, I said, "Oh, you better go fix that."
But they could have fixed it without the drama.
And I also, the drama, I don't think that the drama was caused by us. I think it was caused by the Department of Consumer Protection.
No, no, I don't think so, but whatever.
Because they sent the cease and desist order, which was a real surprise to me.
No, but it was because of a phone call to them that we didn't have the certificate.
Okay. And all right, because this law has been in effect since before the year 2000 that they had to register. So, maybe Drusilla should have talked to Drusilla. Basically, is it my understanding that you were calling to get a copy of the bylaws?
I emailed, yes, to say I can't find a copy of their bylaws online and asked if they could provide one.
Okay. And I think perhaps, in my sense, perhaps it would have been easier if you could have gotten a copy of the bylaws from the Friends directly.
Yes, unfortunately, the conversation that led to the library staff wanting a copy of the bylaws was not such that we felt comfortable doing that.
Okay, but in 2020 hindsight, it probably,
Mhm.
of course, it would have avoided the fact that Consumer Protection would have ever have found out that they were operating illegally.
Right. Yes.
So they would have continued to operate illegally. To me, it cuts both ways, and I'm sorry that the Friends' feelings were hurt. And I do believe that it would have been a better procedure to ask them for the bylaws, but I do believe that they needed to come into compliance with the law.
Yeah, well, I think that the communication has not been good.
Okay, so I mean, I think Drusilla admits that it would have been better that if she had been able to get a copy of the bylaws from the Friends, but it still doesn't address the issue that they needed to comply with the law.
Right.
Okay, and the cease and desist order from the Department of Consumer Protection was actually a very nice one, if you read it, compared to the ones I've gotten. And the Friends were able to change and fix everything within a few days. So they got all their paperwork straightened around and everything was fixed. And there was no repercussions from it anywhere within the town or with the public or with the board. So
But
I think it was resolved.
But it's affected the relationship between the board and.
Oh, yes. And I can also say that Drusilla and I worked on a letter of apology that we ran by Mr. Tierney, and Mr. Tierney's instruction was not to send it yet. Okay, so that is why the letter did not go out, because we were instructed to wait until after Mr. Tierney had an opportunity to meet with the Friends and the trustees together. So that is why the letter was not sent.
But maybe the Friends should have gotten that information too.
That would have been up to, I'm afraid to even say it today, but that was something Mr. Tierney should have communicated with the Friends. So unfortunately, there was another breakdown in communications right there.
Then, well, that's what I'm pointing out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you, Dale. And I don't know if, I wish we could move on from here. It would be very nice if we could get back on track. Is there anyone else that have any comments or thoughts about this?
I work in education. I know it doesn't always feel good, but I mean, if we're out of compliance in any way, you immediately hear from either the superintendent or the State Department of Education. And so, because with their educational laws, you can't be out of compliance. And so I kind of view this in the same way. Like I understand the frustration with potentially the way that it was handled, but at the end of the day, if something has been out of compliance from a legal perspective, it has to get put into compliance as quickly as possible. So that's just my take from having dealt with that from an educational perspective. Thanks.
Oh, okay, Meg, thank you very much. That is a good perspective. And again, as a lawyer, that is my perspective also, that you fix it before there are problems and you fix it as quickly as possible. The Friends of the Douglas Library do use our name. So it is part of our responsibility, I think, as a Board of Trustees to protect our name and also make sure that everything involving the library and our library's name is legal and in compliance with state and local law.
Right. And I think it speaks to everyone. I mean, that as you mentioned, it wasn't like this blew up like in the papers or online or anything. It was handled, as far as I'm concerned, it was handled discreetly and quickly. And really, that's the key thing.
Yeah. And part of the quickness was, again, the Friends getting in contact with Consumer Protection and filing the necessary paperwork as quickly as possible. I believe they were in compliance within 5 days. and the cease and desist order came in before a weekend. So they moved very quickly to get this together. And from what I can find out, the Department of Consumer Protection gave them additional time to come into compliance, and also gave them links and access to the information they needed to file the forms. So that the consumer protection was very helpful and very cooperative with us. So I must, give my respect to them for doing it in such a discreet and careful way. Okay. Any other comments before I move on to the next item? Now, I expect you all have to have read this by next meeting and to have comments. You have homework, people. Okay. That said, I would like to turn over the meeting to our library director for the library director's report.
So we have been super incredibly busy with summer reading. So in my director's report, I said that as of June 30th, we had 266 adults and teens and 200 children registered for summer reading. So at about 5 o'clock, I went out and checked the totals, and we were at 240 children and 310 adults and teens. And then I was notified just before the meeting started that in the hour and a half, we had gone to 241 children and 313 adults and teens. So we are at almost 600 registered for summer reading, which my goal was to double the 45 that we had registered last year. So I think we've blown through that goal. So we are super busy. We have had a ton of programs. I tried to get Claire, just stuck her head in my office. There's a needle felting program going on downstairs, which was sponsored by one of our donors, our individual donors. And I tried to get her to let me show you all the bluebird that they needle felted, but she took it away with her. So, but we have been very busy, lots and lots and lots of traffic, which is great. And we had, my favorite is the gentleman who stuck his head into my office on Friday to say that he was 54 years old and he has not been this excited about summer reading since he was 8. So he was very excited to enter his raffle ticket and join some of our programming. We just as an update from the last meeting, I did forward the board's request to the Charter Revision Commission. I forgot to put that in my report. So that has gone off. And Donna has received a copy. She did tell me that they were setting their meetings. So I don't know what else they might need from me or from the board, but that has gone off to them to add to their consideration. But yeah, we are very super busy, and July seems to be the month for meetings for me. So if you come to the library and I'm not here, I'm probably either in a webinar or someplace exciting like Southbury, which is where I'm going on Thursday.
Drew, so that thing that was for the charter revision, that related to the number of people on the
The
board of
number
trustees?
of, yes, the board had asked that I forward them a request that it go down to 2 fewer trustees, but have 2 alternates. So I had passed that along with the comment that it would bring the library board more into line with some of the other boards and commissions. So. And just in case anyone missed it in my report, I managed to get myself elected to 2 positions in June. So I started a 3-year term on the Bibliomation board, which is the consortium that we belong to. I had to give Carl, who's the retiring executive director, a hard time. I was on the board when he was hired a decade ago. And now that I'm back on the board, he's retiring. So I'm not sure what that says. He's making a break for it. But I was also asked to take on coordinating the Eastern Connecticut Library Directors Roundtable. So I and Lindsay Delegan, who is with the Andover Library, will be co-chairing that for the next 2 years.
What do you do in your spare time?
I'm not sure what spare time is, actually. I have no idea. But I do I like being on, the Bibliomation board is mostly Zoom meetings. But it's nice to have, so I'm not actually having to travel, but it's nice to have that sort of connection with the bigger picture. Than just sitting in my library, knowing what other libraries are doing and what the consortium is doing.
Also,
I have a question. I don't even know if I can be heard.
I can hear you.
Am I in? Oh, okay. My question is, charter revision, and the information was forwarded to them that we suggested changing our makeup to
Yes.
2 fewer permanent. Okay.
Yep.
Did we actually vote on that?
Yes.
I'm trying to
Yes, we
remember.
did.
Yes.
We did,
Okay.
That
Mary
was
Ann.
voted
That's
on.
all right, good.
It's in the minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
great.
I did refer them to the minutes that as a record that was the vote of the board.
Super.
I wanted to ask about the possums.
The possums, did you enjoy my photo evidence that Lita and I got to hold the possums?
Yes.
That was very exciting. Yes, so Ferncroft is an opossum rescue, and they do outreach. So I am holding Sherman in that picture. Sherman was a bit of a chunk. Fun fact, opossums gain weight in their tails. So if they have a very fat tail, that's how you can tell they're overweight. And Sherman was definitely a little pudgy. And Lita is holding Wendy, who was considerably the calmer of the two. But yes, so we had a good turnout. Everybody got to pet the possums and learn all about possums and what to do if you see one that's injured. I think the short version is call the rescue. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we have, let's see, we have reptiles coming. We had goats last week before. I don't know, I got a sunburn supervising the goats. The Mystic Aquarium Touch Tank is coming, thanks to the friends. So yes, if you're into animals, the library is the place to be this summer.
Okay, and I had a question about how we are doing with the budget.
Yes, so I had actually put that in my report. Now these are not final figures because the town has not yet closed out fiscal year 24. But according to my figures and the reports that I've run off of the interface for the budget, we are ending 4% under budget. So that's a surplus of $13,786, and that is in spite of going over on some line items.
Do we get to keep that?
No, unfortunately, we do not.
Oh,
But it does look really good for us that we are not the department that is way the heck over. There are a couple of departments that were significantly over their budget for the year. So I got to say, look at us. We managed to come in a little bit under.
Did we not buy enough books or, I mean,
So part of that is that over the summer before I started, our book orders were smaller than usual. Part of that was some of the savings that, so I had arranged for some standing orders and so on some of the things that we buy a lot, which gives us an additional percentage. Lita in particular has been very careful about what she buys and only buying from those organizations that give us the Connecticut Library Consortium discount. So if we have a choice of 2 vendors to purchase something, she goes with the one that is going to cost us less. So I think it's just being careful of what we're spending. And fortunately, we haven't needed to replace, I don't know, half the furniture in the library or something.
okay. And the
Yeah,
HVAC
and I think Claire would tell you that she wishes I would go a little less crazy with book buying because she's running out of space on the new shelves.
and the HVAC unit has been
The
fixed.
HVAC is fixed. It was very exciting the day that the gentleman was here, and then the next day when they came and turned it back on. So yes. It is
Okay.
now cold in all of the second floor as opposed to just the front and back of the second floor.
And are there any other, and there, I noticed there's ARPA funding.
ARPA. Don't ask me what that stands for because I can't remember. But it is It is federal funding that is made available under certain circumstances. And I was approached by a couple of people, including someone from the selectmen, and let know that the town has some unallocated ARPA funding. And there are some specific criteria for ARPA funding requests. You can't just go in and say, I want to buy a whatever. You have to have costed out exactly what it will cost. So I was able to say, here's what the 2 new 3D printers would cost. Here's what a year's worth of the filament would cost. Here's my exact dollar amount that this would cost the town. So that has been passed on to the selectmen. I understand that some of the selectmen think it's a great idea, but I have not heard anything.
Does that mean if we win that grant and get 2 new 3D printers, we will have 4 operating? Printers?
No. So right now we have one that is barely functional. Let's put it that way. Derek spends a lot of time babying it, trying to get it to print, and half the time it still doesn't. So realistically, we would replace the 2 that we have, because one of them is, like I said, one of them is essentially non-functional. And the other one is coming to the end of its life. It has some significant hiccups. So we would replace the 2 that we have.
Thank you.
And interestingly, just because I find this interesting, the newer of the 2 3D printers that we have is the one that is non-functional.
Really?
Derek has managed to keep the older one going, and I can't say enough about how hard he works trying to, tweak things and make it work. But the newer one has a tendency to just sort of eat the filament instead of actually extruding it, which means that it doesn't print very well. So
we do need printers that are a little more capable, and I don't mean the present condition.
Yes.
I mean some that will do more.
So the newer,
speaking of QR codes.
the newer printer that we have is supposed to be able to print multiple color designs, but in practice, we've never been able to get that to work. And that predates me. I mean, it's been here longer than I have. So the new printers are very highly rated and come highly recommended, and they actually can print up to 4 colors on a single project.
Well,
so they're kind of cool.
Can I ask what brand?
Yes, hang on. Let me pull that out of my folder over here. My pile of stuff. They are, I promise they're in here. They're in my pile. There we go. They are a Bamboo Lab P1S. And they can do 4 colors. I understand you can get an upgraded version that will print 16 colors, but that seems a little excessive. So we went with the 4 color one. And they have, which I think is kind of fun. I don't know what we're going to do with this, but they have a built-in camera so you can remotely monitor your 3D printing job, which for me, I can see them from my desk, but I suppose it would be kind of fun if we could figure out a way to make that available as like a webcam. So people who use them to print things could monitor the progress.
Could they operate overnight?
Well,
could they continue operating?
The ones we have now we just printed something that went for like 3 days and just sort of prints nonstop. So these will do the same thing.
Okay.
But yeah, these are significantly higher quality, shall we say. And I'm also told that they are a bit quieter than our current ones, which would be a nice feature, because when these get going, or the one that's currently working gets going, it can get pretty noisy if it's printing something complex.
Do board members get free lessons?
Everybody, they are free to everybody. So yes, we will. Derek would be delighted, or Elliot would be delighted to give you free lessons on how to use a 3D printer. And if you don't want to wait that long, you can use our 3D printer pen, which I got working. So that was my contribution. So you can, that's kind of fun because you draw and it does a shade, like it's not like ink, it's like plastic that it draws.
Yep, I played with it once, so yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay, anything else to report? Any questions of the librarian?
I have a question. Someone asked me about when they were having the passport to visit other libraries, that there would be a prize or something, and they
Yes,
said that they had.
the winners were announced.
Oh, they.
So they, and I can't tell you off the top of my head who they are because that's on the Facebook page, which I do manage, but I'm not logged into right now. But yes, so it's a random drawing. So every participating library randomly drew one adult and one child. All of those 153 adults and 153 children went to a national or a state sort of clearinghouse, and one adult and one child randomly were drawn. And then the adult and the child who visited the most libraries in the state were each also awarded. So that announcement went out last week, I believe. It was a little delayed due to some circumstances beyond our control, namely the coordinator switching jobs, which made getting everything to her a little more challenging. But yes, so that's been announced.
Okay, this person had apparently received a letter and hadn't gotten any notification since then, so I was just wondering. They
Yeah.
mentioned.
So Jen, who is the statewide coordinator, has reached out to all of the winners as of last week, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're all sort of recuperating briefly. We're working on tabulating the statistics so we know how many people statewide participated. I'm guessing it's a lot based on how many we saw. And then we will take a year off and do it again in 2026 because it takes a lot of work. So there's no way we can do it every year.
Okay, moving on to old business. Andy Tierney had asked that the Board of Trustees meet with him and representatives of the Friends. And we need volunteers or I will appoint people. I have already volunteered. I was hoping I could coerce Meg into volunteering.
Sure. It just depends on when it is because I will be traveling out of country for 11 days this summer.
Oh, we have plenty of time.
Oh,
Okay.
And you have room in your suitcase. Well, I should ask where you're going, but you have room in your suitcase for a random library director, right?
Sure.
Okay, and I was thinking perhaps Peter? He's not.
There's a possibility of that, Pat.
Okay, and is there anyone who's dying to do this?
I can
Sure,
do.
I'm dying.
Who's that?
I'm plenty old. I'm near dying to do it, sure.
Okay. Any other volunteers? I was thinking perhaps a group of 3 so we do not have a quorum when we go to meet with Andy.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Sounds
So,
like you got 3 nice ladies to serve on that committee, so I'll back down.
oh, Peter.
Well, you got
We-
your 3. Who could ask for more than that?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Okay. Anyone else wishes to volunteer, please let Drusilla know. And we were going to suggest that 3 members from the Friends also join us. So we have equal people on both sides. So if we decide to play bridge or ping pong, we're evenly matched.
Let me know if I need to bring one of the game sets for that to happen.
Okay.
I just returned Can Jam today, so.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. Any other old business? Nope. Hearing nothing, we move on to new business, vacancy on the Board of Trustees.
Yes, so I think Ann Danaher sent an email to everyone. She has stepped down from the board due to her husband's illness. She did send an email to the town, to Dory, indicating that, so we officially have a vacancy on the board.
Is she a town rep or an association rep?
She was not on the association.
I thought she was.
I didn't think so. That's a Donna question. Donna would know.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, think she was because Anne and I came in at the same time, and I know I'm an association rep.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping Donna would be here tonight. When, I didn't realize that she was gonna be on vacation because obviously I don't know, not having been here, the procedure for appointing or electing a new board member. But so I can check with her when she is back on the 15th. And I think if anybody has any recommendations, I guess I would say forward them to me and then I will see what the process is.
Yeah, so if you know any victims, I mean volunteers, make sure Drusilla knows. Okay,
Is Anne an association rep or?
Yeah,
no?
we were just discussing that
Yeah, I didn't
think
quite understand.
so.
we don't know.
We think
I-
so, but
okay.
I don't know. So that's a Donna question as well.
Okay.
Donna will know off
So-
the top of her head.
So then any recommendations would have to come from the association.
Right.
But
If it
Meg,
is, if it is an association
Correct.
person,
Correct.
Meg, did you
Who-
say you were
who
association?
presently,
Yeah,
of
I'm
those that
an
are there right now, who are association reps? That could help with the answer.
let's see, Gail was.
I am.
Sue is,
I
Meg,
am.
Gail, Megan,
Sue.
I am Sue.
too. Emily.
Emily, so it's maybe Anne wasn't.
But we had 5 association reps and 4 general public.
Okay, so Anne probably was then.
but I will confirm with Donna on when she comes back on Monday.
I just
Okay.
checked. I just-
We could name anyone. We could suggest anyone, and if they're not association members and that's required, they can join.
They can join the association, exactly. So
That's
yeah,
a good,
if
that's very
somebody
good.
does have a name and you want to forward it to me, I will pass that on to the powers that be.
That was very good. Good idea.
Perfect.
Okay, the next issue is move to in-person meetings. I don't,
Guess
So
who
this came from
suggested
MA.
that topic?
MA.
Of course.
MA, how do you feel
I
about
mean, I have been teaching this for years. I really feel that when we're looking at each other, number one, we get to know each other. And two, I think we pay a little closer attention than when we're just sitting back at home doing whatever.
MA, would you be willing to try the hybrid meetings to see if that resolves some of your issues and then revisit
Well,
that
of course,
after?
because I'd be a live member.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe, although I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the intention is that once the hybrid meeting equipment goes into our community room, that all of the boards and commissions, because that means that there will be hybrid equipment in town hall as well as here. And so the plan is for all of the boards and commissions to go to hybrid format. That's
who
my
ha-
understanding.
They don't all do hybrid now. Historic Properties Commission has never done hybrid.
No, but there are some that do fully remote still. We had
I
this
mean, I could
discussion
say-
at a department heads meeting, a town department heads meeting a couple of weeks ago. So
I meant to say we've never done virtual.
yeah, so my understanding is that the plan is that once this equipment is in and both sites have working hybrid meeting equipment, that everybody will go to in person with the option of hybrid.
Okay. I think I understand that.
Yeah, I don't
Do we have
understand
a
it, but
consensus?
that's all right.
Do we have a consensus right now as to those that are willing to go to a live meeting?
Well,
Of course,
It'll be, I think once it goes hybrid, like once they get the equipment set up, we will be in person.
Yes, so basically, once the equipment is set up, everybody will go to in-person with the option for hybrid. So like if somebody's ill or someone I don't know, has a small child or breaks a leg or something, they can attend virtually. But
I guess I'm questioning whether we could go face to face right now, you know, be it without the hybrid, without the machinery.
I would,
We have lots of room in the community room.
Yeah, my first question though is whether the community room is available. I'd have to check the calendar. Because like tonight, we had a program in the community room, one in the boardroom, and then this was happening virtually since we have not been scheduling the board in person. So I'd have to double check when those Monday nights would, or what we could move.
yeah, and it might be hard to set it up during the summer because we have a lot of people.
Well, especially if they're going to be in there installing equipment for what I understand will be a week or more.
That could be a problem.
If it
Yeah.
happens to be over that week, in July or August, that is going to cause a bit of a problem.
And we have to make sure that Meg is back.
And one of the reasons we went to virtual meetings, or we stayed with virtual meetings, was out of respect for Gail.
Yeah.
We wanted her attendance and her knowledge at the meetings, and she couldn't make it physically.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
and-
would be careful with that one, please.
Yes.
Yeah, and when I spoke to Gail tonight, she was not feeling up to attending, but she hopes to attend in the future virtually.
Good.
Peters.
Good.
So
Yeah, so
that's
that's, as I said, that's one reason I think the town is hoping to transition so that meetings will be in person with the hybrid option, which lets people who are in that situation, you know, attend virtually and still participate in discussion and so on.
so MA, are you happy with this so far?
I'm listening.
She's reserving comment.
Well, I mean, I've been pushing this for so long that, and I know Gail well. It's not as if I'm ignoring her situation, because she also, you know, I simply call in on the phone. Anyone can do that. You don't have to be connected to Zoom or GoTo or anything. You can simply call and follow the meeting.
I had a question for the hybrid meeting. So that means if we're meeting in person, though, members of the public could still call in and meet with us virtually. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's my understanding. Now, bear in mind that I was part of the discussion for how the setup was going to work in the community room, but that doesn't mean I've actually seen it in person. But yes, my understanding is that the way that this will work, partially intended so that when there were events that there might be very large crowds for, like budget meetings, but there's a possibility that we could have, I don't know, a hurricane or a nor'easter, people could still attend and hear the discussion and see the discussion virtually. So members of the public could do that while a meeting was going on that maybe they would not either want to or be able to attend physically.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? And it sounds like what we're going to do is wait until we're set up with the hybrid. Then the meetings will be by default in person with some people attending virtually.
Yes.
Yes, and I will double check again when Donna comes back if she has gotten, because last I heard a week or so ago, we didn't have a definite start date for that installation, but I will check since she's the sort of center point for that project.
When is Donna back, by the way?
Monday.
Monday. Okay. All right. I don't hear any comments from MA, so I guess I can move on. Okay. Moving on to other business, which I'm not sure what that is,
I don't think we have anything for other business unless
because we don't know what it is.
we don't know what it is. It's a standard agenda line item, but I wasn't given anything for others, so.
Okay. All right. Then moving on to strategic plan committees. Any reports from any of the committees?
Well, I just think the welcoming is doing a really good job. The board going in with all the different things that are located, and that's very welcoming.
Oh, that's great. I hadn't thought of it that way, Dale.
Well, I will pass that on to Sarah, who is our staff member who manages the board. And she also comes up with our weekly terrible joke in case
Right.
you needed to know who to blame for that.
But I mean, that's something, I ran into, someone who was visiting the library a few months ago, and she was just so impressed with it. And, and then she said, oh, I didn't know that you have a movie once a week, and, that type of thing. And so it just brings your attention when you're walking up the stairs.
Now, you have a notary on staff, right?
We do not,
Why not?
because Kevin was the previous notary and the town has not arranged for notary training for anyone. That is something that the town is aware of, and my understanding is that they are working on scheduling notary training for the departments that need it. But right now, the notary that's on town staff is the town clerk.
Town clerk does not notarize everything. They do not notarize deeds, and they do not notarize wills.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so
they have a limited capacity.
yeah, so we offered English here. We offered notary services because Kevin was a notary, but none of us currently are. So as I said, Dory is aware of that, and she also knows, I believe there's at least one other department that should probably have one, from what she said, and so they're working on scheduling that, but I don't know what the town's timeline is.
That's too bad. Yeah, because that is a good library service.
Hey, Pat, can anyone witness a will or a deed or whatever? You don't have to have it notarized.
Well, basically in Connecticut, you have to have two witnesses to any will.
Who have to be
Right.
disinterested, right?
Right, you can't
be an heir.
you can't be mentioned in the will. And then there's something called a self-attesting will, in which the notary takes the oath of the people who are witnessing the will, saying they looked at the person seemed to be competent, of sound mind, and of a majority over 18. So in that sense, yes, you do have a notarization of a will, but you're not notarizing the testator, you're notarizing the witnesses. Does that help?
Yeah, but that's not required though, is it?
No. The problem with not having a self-attesting will, when you introduce the will into probate, you actually have to go out and try to find the witnesses and drag them in. And sometimes the witnesses are not alive anymore, and sometimes you can't find them, but it is not a requirement for a valid will. Connecticut does not accept holographic wills. That is where somebody will sit down and write their own will out and sign it. We do not accept that.
If you
Drusilla,
do that and then have it witnessed, that's okay though.
If you have two witnesses, yes.
Yeah,
You could write it out in, you could write it out in crayon. They don't care, as long as you have two witnesses.
you could write it out in cursive. Most people couldn't read it though.
That's true. That's true. Lawyers can. We're taught how to read cursive. I'm kidding.
Oh,
Okay.
you were.
You were, yeah. Actually,
Drusilla,
yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, it doesn't matter. It was just a lawyer joke. So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask Drusilla, if we do get notary status, will we be charging the public like town hall charges the public?
I don't
No.
know.
Yep,
You can't.
I think that's required.
Yeah.
$5.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, that's, again, my understanding is that that's part of like the state notary training, that they tell you what your fees are. I only know this because my mother was a notary, and when her army unit was being deployed in Desert Storm, I witnessed, I don't know how many wills, because you have to have a valid will in order to be deployed, in case you wondered.
Right.
So I was up for a while on the notary standards, because I was sitting in her office while she dealt with stuff.
It is
Also, regarding the notary, I know Kevin had told me at one point that he had not charged people for whom he had notarized documents until he was told that he had to.
He
Yeah,
had to.
you have to, but my understanding is that what you have to charge depends by like what state you're in and what your capacity is, and at least it was that way in the Carolinas.
In Connecticut, I believe it's $5. Or it was last time I looked. So,
But yeah, so that's the kind of thing they tell you when you go to notary training.
and attorneys can automatically notarize documents as commissioners of the Superior Court. And our commission does not expire until we do. So to speak.
This is a part of our other new business.
This is other business.
There we go.
Okay. Anything else from strategic planning committees? Oversight, welcoming, integral. I have been seeing things in the River East regarding our poet laureate and receptions and him meeting with students, which seemed to go very well.
I was gonna say, I went to the 4th of July ceremony put on by the Town Center Project at 9 a.m. on July 4th, and Larry was there and was introduced as the poet laureate and read 2 poems. So I thought that was great. I took a picture. So Drusilla, I don't know if you want me to send you the picture.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. I'll do that.
You can send it to me too.
Who is that?
I think that
You
was
can forward it to me also.
Was that MA?
I'm the old one. Yeah.
Yes, I will send it to you as well.
And Lita
Thank
and
you,
Lita and I have discussed, once the school year starts, we're going to ask him to come do a thing here for little ones on poetry, and then we're going to have the kids write a poem about their library or libraries or books or something.
Oh dear.
Display all of the poems along with, we're going to challenge, don't tell him, MA, we're going to challenge Larry to write a poem about the library. And then we'll display them all. We'll do a display of his and the kids' poems.
I think
You
Larry
can
should.
put one a month into the newsletter too.
True. Yeah, monthly thing. Yeah. I think Larry should have to review the kids and then write in their style.
But yeah, we decided it would be kind of fun to have, a display of all the poems that the kids had written. And then someone said, well, Larry should have to write one too. So like I said, don't tell him. We're going to spring this on him. But yeah, so that we're looking at doing that in the fall once kids are back in school and it's a little less hectic for us, especially.
And anyone who does not attend a meeting live will also have to start writing poems.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Does it have to be a good poem?
Oh, heck no.
Oh, good. Then we're fine.
All right.
Pat, you're muted.
Dog.
I was gonna say I saw the mouth moving, but there was no sound.
No, my dogs sometimes run between my legs and unplug my microphone.
Ah,
Okay, sorry about that.
that's what you
Okay.
get for having dogs that small.
I know.
Mine would knock my chair over.
I'm surprised that they didn't jump up into the camera during the meeting. So, okay, could I have a motion for adjournment?
I
please?
so move.
Thank you, Dale. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned, and I don't even know what time it is.
Keep cool, everybody, and stay well.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Please
you,
do.
everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.